Her passion for personal and professional growth shines through in every aspect of her life. Ashleigh Fordham.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Well, that was a very studious introduction. Are you all awake? Well, okay, my big takeaway is that clearly I need to hire a driver. Like, that was awesome. I also learned that branding, I'm wearing all black, so I'll let that speak for itself. So I'm very excited to be with you all today. And Shauna reached out to me a couple of months ago and said, I think you should do a talk. And I was like, oh, about what? She's like, well, I don't know. And we just started talking, and I started to tell her a little bit about my life and my son. And she's like, you know what? That would be the most fabulous keynote closing speech. And I was like, okay, we can do that. So I'm very excited to be with you all today. Lane 4 focus is something that is sort of an interesting sideways. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story of how I came to learn about swimming. But my son is actually the inspiration of this story today. And he has no idea that I'm talking to a group of 300 realtors. But I am going to tell him when I get home how exciting you all are. And I'm going to have a little favor at the end. But what I'm going to tell you is that sometimes in life, especially in business, we come to this place where you get total burnout. Have you been there? Has anybody been there? Okay. And I sort of had this aha moment. It was 2023. Actually, let's go through this. Oh, there we go. Okay. So before we go into the story, a little bit about myself. My name's Ashleigh. I'm a managing principal broker and owner of WinderMERE Heritage. We have several offices across Oregon, so you've been able to meet some of my amazing, incredible agents. I've got Zach from Prineville and Nihad and Shelly with me, so thank you guys for being here. Most importantly, I am a wife, a mom, and a total real estate nerd. So if you know anything about me, the brand is that I'm a total, absolute nerd in the best way possible. And all of my agents are like, she really is. They're all shaking their head. I know that. And what's great about this industry is that you all are in the trenches every single day, right? I would say this is probably one of the greatest careers, but you wake up every single day unemployed. You do. You wake up every day unemployed, and you have to go get after it. And I think in some respects, that is one of the greatest privileges ever. But it is also one of the hardest challenges because we lose our focus sometimes. And we have best year burnout. We go into these situations where we're, we're doing all the things, right? We don't have a driver, but we're working late and we're burning out. And I was kind of at that phase. So let's see, this is my son. So I have 2 kids. In 2022, I ran for Oregon Realtors president and won. And I remember in 2023, my term was about to hit because we run November to November. And it was October 31st. I was sitting in Central Oregon. I was sitting on a panel. We were getting ready to talk about all things real estate. And for those of you that don't remember, October 31st, if it doesn't live in your infamy like it does mine, that was the date that the National Association of Realtors lost the lawsuit. Anybody remember those days? Yeah, okay. So I was about ready to walk into my term as the state president, and I thought, this is like the dumpster fire of all dumpster fires, right? And I remember thinking to myself, okay, this is it. This is that moment where you're called to just handle the fire. It's like herding cats with the house on fire, quite literally. And I thought to myself, okay, I have a couple options. I can face everything and rise, or be fearful and absolutely run. Well, I was elected, so I couldn't run. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to face everything and rise, and we're going to make the best of it, right? Because adversity wakes up the genius. Would you agree? Sometimes you're faced with the most stressful or overwhelming situation, and you're like, how in the world am I supposed to get through that, right? So, side story, my son Nicholas, there's a couple pictures of him here. He's a championship swimmer. And we sort of accidentally found that he was good at swimming at his, when you put your son in swim. How many of you are swimmers, by the way? Okay, so you guys will relate to this story. So we put our son in swimming lessons, and I thought, okay, this is good. I just want to make sure that he doesn't drown, right? But when there's 10 or 12 kids on the side of the pool, it's really impossible to learn anything, right? He was 2.5 at the time, and there was 10 other kids in his class, and he was getting nothing out of the content, right? Because he was in the pool for maybe 30 seconds before they had to switch kids. And he was very into dinosaurs at the time, and, the instructor is trying to make sure that the kid in the pool isn't drowning. And so he takes it upon himself to stand up, and he starts growling like a T-Rex to all the parents that are sitting there. I'm like, this is a really good indicator that we probably need to have private lessons, okay? So we signed him up for private lessons, 30 minutes, 1 time a week, not a big deal, but we just kept at it. We're like, well, he likes it. Let's just do it. When he was 5, his swim coach said, she pulled me aside and she said, he's really good. I was like, he's 5. She's like, no, you need to put him in a competitive swim team. And I thought, okay, sure, he's 5. What's the harm? Here's what I got to tell you. He found his thing, like quite literally. He is about to turn 11 years old. This kid is unlike anybody I've ever met in my life. He's an old soul. He is so incredibly dedicated to this sport, it's crazy. I always ask him, I'm like, are you ready to try something new? He's like, no, Mom, I'm going to the Olympics. I'm like, all right, let's make this happen, right? I'm like, well, okay, here's the deal, buddy. I'm that cool, Mom, I'm gonna have a shirt with your name on it that says I made that at the Olympics. Like, I'm doing that for you. Like, it's gonna happen. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. The thing about my son is, like, he's so thoughtful, and he's obviously grown up in an entrepreneurial household, but the thing that I love most about my son is when I'm watching him in practice, not only is he super kind, he cheers on his teammates even if they beat him, but he shows up and he does the work. Every day, I'll take him to practice. He practices 4 times a week, 2 hours a day. And I sit there and I watch him, and he plugs away at the detail. And it's not even about the stamina. It's like the kid's just like, give me more work. Give me more work. I want to do it. I want to do the things. And I'm just like, I'm watching him and I'm like, this is crazy. This kid is like really, really into swimming. And I'm like, all right, we're going to do something with this. Well, he started to get really good. For those of you that are swimmers, you will understand that everybody has a stroke. I didn't know that was a thing. That's a thing. He's a butterflyer. Okay. He's number 1 in the state for butterfly at 10 and under. Crazy. His technique is unreal. It's like, I don't know if he just like came out of the womb swimming or what, but like he's crazy good at it. And the thing of it is like you can constantly see like he's watching the rotation of his arms. He's like, Mom, record me. Okay. He's like, I got to know the angles. I got to make sure that my arm rotation and the movement of my hand is so laser focused that I'm gliding across the water. He goes, I know how many breaths it takes to get from one end of the pool to the next. I know how many strokes it takes to get from one end to the next. And I'm going to put everything I have into that race. But it's not just the race. He puts everything that he has into the practice. All of his friends are just like, they're 10. They're like buddies. They're messing around, but not my son. He's just laser focused. He's like, I'm so ready to do the work, Mom. I'm so ready to build it up. And he's the shortest, tiniest kid, but you will never find anybody who has more heart. You'll never find anybody who has more hustle. And I sit there and I watch him hour after hour, and I'm like, if I do nothing else well, let it be that. Right? So, how I came to this conclusion about lane 4. I knew nothing about swim, like just being fully transparent with you. And he kept getting put in the center of the pool, which I was like, he has the fastest seat time. Why is he in the center of the pool? Why is he in lane 4? That makes no sense. So of course I'm Googling it, right? Well, what I didn't know was that there's a lot of power in lane assignments, okay? So what I didn't realize is lane 4 is actually the coveted spot. Did you know that? Or lane 5, depending on how many lanes there are in the pool, okay? But here's the seating rules. In major meets, swimmers are seated and placed in lanes based on their qualifying times. So if you have the fastest qualifying time, you get the best lane. The fastest qualifier always goes into lane 4 or lane 5, depending on if it's a 10-lane pool. And the next fastest lane is in lane 5 or 4, then 3, then 6, alternating outward. Who knew? I didn't know that. I Googled it. I was like, why is the swimmer in lane 4? This puts the fastest swimmer in the middle lanes with slower seeds pushed to the outside. I had no idea. I'm like, oh, okay. Does anyone know why they do that? I had to Google that because I'm a total nerd. I was like, listen, I gotta know the mechanics of swimming. If we're gonna make it to the Olympics, I better know my stuff. Okay, the advantages of the center lane. Best visibility. You're in the middle of the action, able to feel the race and see your closest competitors. Huh, all right. Water conditions, which not being a swimmer, I had no idea that water conditions play a huge role in how fast you swim. Makes sense. Middle lanes often have less turbulence than outside lanes because you're buffed by swimmers on both sides. Huh. Okay. Edge. Being in the middle tells everyone this is the swimmer to beat. If you're in the center of the pool, all eyes are on you. Doesn't matter if you're the swimmer in the other lanes. Doesn't matter if you're in the audience. Lane 4 says, you know what? I'm the one to beat. I've earned this spot. Watch me work. That's what it means. It's the spotlight lane. With lane 4 comes a lot of pressure. With lane 4 comes a lot of hard work. And everybody always loves to say, oh, look it, they made it to lane 4. Nobody sees the work. Would you agree? You starting to see where this falls into business? I'm like, oh, this is like gold. This is like business and life gold. So, here's what I also didn't know. Technique and endurance equals consistency. The best swimmers keep form even when they're exhausted. The same is true in your real estate business. Would you agree? Swimming is a sport of resistance. The water is unforgiving. Every mistake costs you energy. You don't breathe right. You don't turn your head right. You move your arm wrong. Guess what? You beat milliseconds. Your perfection is in your technique. If you don't have that down, everything crumbles. You could be the fastest swimmer, and if your technique is off, guess what? The kid with the better technique is always going to win. Always. Because it's a resistance sport. Kind of like real estate. Good technique is streamlined stroke, mechanics, turns, and breathing. There's so much that goes into swimming. I had no idea. Minimizes drag and maximizes propulsion. With technique, when your technique is solid, a swimmer can maintain speed with less effort because there's no drag. Crazy. I had no idea. So, how does that relate to business? Okay, in 2023, I'm sitting there, I'm in front of a panel, we just got the worst news ever, and all of these headlines pop up. I'm getting calls daily, not only from my agents that work within my company, but agents across my entire state, across our entire network, and we're all having mini meltdowns. Would you agree? Or was that just me? It's okay if it was just me. I love this one. Realtors are nervous. It could be the worst thing ever. Do I really need a real estate agent? Bad news. If you're looking to buy a house in the next 2 years, red alert, don't do it. Agents don't know what they're doing. So this was like at the height of my lane 4 commitment, and I realized, I'm like, I gotta get my head straight. Normally I'm a turtler, okay? My husband lovingly refers to that as like, I kind of hibernate for a minute, and then I process and I noodle. Okay, I started in 2008, going back to Marguerite's like PTSD. That's when I started, so I feel that on a whole nother level. And I said, you know what? Now I'm in a different position. Not only do I have a business to carry, I have brokers to carry. I have an entire company. I have an entire state that's looking to me and asking me, what do we do next? Well, adversity wakes up the genius, and we go back to basics. We put in the work and we figure it out because that's what we do. We are in the business of change. Anyone who tells you different is fooling themselves. That's what we do. We handle change every single day, right? We change people's homes. We change people's lives. We change our business scenes. We do change extraordinarily well. think the New York Times called us cockroaches. Did you read that article? Oh, I was so mad. Nothing will make me more angry than reading that article. But anyway, the benefit of being called a cockroach is that cockroaches have survived like every major world event ever. So there's that. All that to say is that I turtled, and I happened to be at one of my son's swim meets, and I was watching him work, and I thought, this is the moment in time where I can give my agents something to lean into because I'm watching it happen in real time. So what do you do when you're a nerd and you've learned a lot about swimming? You Google all the best swimmers. Michael Phelps, undoubtedly one of the best swimmers of all time. Do you know anything about him? Okay. He's like the coolest dude ever. So I'm going to tell you a couple stories that really emphasize this lane four focused idea, okay? When adversity strikes, your technique always wins. Whether that's in swimming or in business, when everything goes wrong, you do the basics right. Say, this is my back to basics. These are my foundations. I can do it in my sleep. I can wake up and I know what to do. Sometimes we got to pivot. Pivot, if you're a Friends fan. During the Beijing 2008 Olympics, during the 200-meter butterfly final, which is what Phelps was known for, which is also what my son is known for, Phelps' goggles filled up with water 50 meters in, which means he's swimming blind. I don't know about you, but I don't know that I'd do well in that situation, which renders him completely blind for the majority of the race. Despite the adversity, Phelps executed his race flawlessly, finishing with a time of 1 minute, 52 seconds, well, just slightly over, setting a new world record and securing his 4th gold medal in the Games. When nobody knows about that race, he swam in the dark. He swam without goggles. His coach intentionally broke his goggles so that he would swim under adverse circumstances. The entire time he was swimming that race, literally, he's like, oh shit, I'm blind. I know what to do because I've practiced it. I've been there. I've lived it. I know exactly what I need to do. He knew how many strokes it was going to take him to get to the end of that pool. He counted it. He measured his breathing. He was so in tune to his body that he knew exactly what needed to happen. And he goes, you know what? After the end of that race, he said, I knew I was fast. I didn't know I was that fast. I'm like, if that's not an analogy for business, I don't know what is. He said, I have to train under every single set of adverse conditions to make sure that I'm prepared. The same can be said about our business. You don't ever wake up and go, everything is going to be swimming today, right? You're like, I've got the best day ever. And then a deal implodes. Your buyer loses their financing. Insurance doesn't come through. Something happens that completely disrupts your entire day. What's your mindset around it? Every opportunity is an ability for you to wake up and say, all right, it's just another day. I can herd cats with the house on fire. That's what I do best, right? It's all a mindset shift, and we have to train ourselves for all of the unexpected under the adversity. Hold on, I have to pull this up. Because it's not the same if I don't read you the story directly. How many of you know the story of LaClaus and Phelps? This was like the upset of the century. If you're into swimming, you know all about this, okay? Chad LaClaus, he was 20 years old from South Africa. He idolized Phelps because, the world did. If you were a swimmer, you thought he was the coolest guy ever. You're like, I want to be like Phelps, okay? He had posters of him on his wall. He was young and fearless and hungry. And everybody was like, oh, he's the one to watch. But Phelps was the favorite. He was favorited to win. He was undefeated in the 200-meter butterfly for over a decade, which I don't know if you know anything about butterfly, but that is like crazy hard and crazy unheard of. He was the favorited. He was expected to win, and he was known for his long and smooth, efficient strokes. Like he was just a killer. Zach's looking at me because he knows he's a swimmer. He's like, I hate it, butterfly. I'm going to read you this story because it makes more sense coming from the mouth of a reporter who was there than it does from me. So close your eyes and imagine it's like chlorine. You're at the Olympics. Phelps leads early with power and efficiency. Leclaus stays on his shoulder and doesn't back down. It's the final 50 meters. Phelps tightens, his technique slips. Leclaus surges and attacks the finish. Did you see what I said there? He tightens and loses his technique. The greatest swimmer in the world tightens and loses his technique. Leclaus wins by 0.05 seconds, which is one blink. Can you imagine? You're the greatest swimmer in the world and you got beat by your fan. I can't even imagine what that must have felt like. The rumor was that this was going to be Phelps' last Olympic event. Did you hear about that? 2012 was he's like, see, I'm just the best. I'll just go out on top. Just kidding. Yeah, I can't imagine. That is insane to lose by one blink. But it gets better. How many of you saw that meme? Okay, on the right, that's Chad Leclaus. That's obviously Michael Phelps. This meme lives in infamy. As I was Googling Michael Phelps, I was like, there's this meme going around and it's pretty good. Well, the story is, in 2016, Michael Phelps said, I'm not going out like that. Now, if that's not the heart of a champion, I don't know what is. He's like, I'm just gonna slay this race. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Chad Leclaus antagonized Michael Phelps the entire event. All you could see on the swimming deck was the two of them like mean mugging each other. And Phelps would just like plug in his thing, and I don't know where he went. He went to some like deep, dark, like seated place where he's like, I gotta find my power again. Carried that scowl on his face the whole week. I can't even imagine. And Leclaus is like, I got this. I got this. This picture was the thing that sold it all. I want you to pay attention. This is the photo that cemented to me the idea of lane 4 focus. Notice the difference between the two competitors? What's happening between them? Phelps is dialed in. He goes, I know exactly what I need to do, and I don't care what's happening on my left, and I don't care what's happening on my right. I have something to prove, and it doesn't matter what happens in the other lanes. I know what I need to do. Leclaus is over there going, uh-oh. He came to play. He came to win. He came to win. You can see it. It's all over the panic-stricken face of Leclaus. He's literally eyeballing Phelps and going, uh-oh. All of that mean mugging was just motivation for Phelps to come out and absolutely crush it. I'm going to read you this story because that's really important too. Okay, at the 2016 Rio Olympics, Michael Phelps faced his longtime rival Chad Leclaus in the 200-meter butterfly. The tension was palpable as Phelps, in the coveted center lane, glared at Leclaus with this now famous death stare, the one I showed you. Before the race even began, off the blocks, both swimmers swam fast and furious, stroke for stroke. But Phelps stayed calm, long, and controlled, maintaining perfect technique even as fatigue set in. Leclaus tried to push and repeat his 2012 upset, but Phelps dug deep, powering through the final 50 meters with flawless execution. In the end, Phelps touched the wall first, reclaiming gold. While Leclaus finished fourth, a reminder that preparation, discipline, and staying focused on your own lane beat bravado and outside pressure every single time. Precision under pressure, focus, discipline, and flawless execution. If that's not a segment for business, I don't know what is. Because in this industry, we have this thing where we love to compare each other, right? We compare ourselves, and sometimes we're our own worst enemies. We love to sit there and watch what other people are doing well. You think, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I didn't do that. Some of you are suffering from best year burnout. Some of you are traumatized from all your industry issues. That would be me. I looked at this picture and I thought to myself, this is the moment that should remind us all that it doesn't matter what other people are doing. It doesn't matter what happens in the other lanes next to you. All that matters is what's happening in your lane. All that matters is the basics and the principles that you brought into that lane to win your best race. And sometimes that means you get on the podium, and sometimes that means it doesn't. But every single opportunity for you to get back to basics and work on your execution is an opportunity for you to better yourself in your business. So, lane 4 focus. Control your own race. If we know that lane 4 is the coveted lane, it's the best seat in the house, what does that really look like? It means focus on what you can control. Your technique, your endurance, your pace, and your attitude. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy. Sometimes we carry a lot of burdens into our business and into our home life. And we have to be self-aware to know, you know what? I gotta check myself before I wreck myself. Sometimes that's a real thing. Don't get distracted by what's happening in other lanes. Gosh, that's such a good analogy for our business right now. If you're paying attention to anything that's happening on Inman or any of the other industry topics, you can sit there and you can read that and you can be like, what does that mean for WinderMERE? No. We have a lane. We're exceptional at it. Every single person in this room wakes up unemployed and you love what you do. You're falling back in love with the business because you have the opportunity to. This is the best opportunity for you to wake up and say, I'm gonna go kill it because all I can control is the lane that I'm in. And it doesn't matter what your competitors are doing. Of course, you need to shop the competition. You need to be aware of what they're doing, but that means that you have an opportunity to do it better and be yourself and be authentic and take your professional self into the best phase of your industry. Consistency comes from executing fundamentals perfectly, lap after lap, even when fatigue sets in. And I don't know about you, but I've been real tired the last couple of years, probably because I did a lot of road shows. I did a lot of talking. And it may surprise you, but I'm actually introverted. So when I go home, I'm probably going to nap for 3 hours and hire a driver. But when we're tired, we have a tendency to let our fatigue slip. When we're tired, we have a tendency to not remember that we love what we do. When we're tired, we have a tendency to not spread into the people around us. But this is the best industry to be able to say, no, I really love what I do. I'm going to fall back in love with the business, and I'm going to choose to fall back in love with the business every day because I'm unemployed every day. And if that's not the greatest honor, I don't know what is. Your view is valuable. That's the other thing. We so often forget that the perspectives that we bring to the table are absolutely needed. We all have an incredible voice in this room. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. Sometimes we feel uncomfortable to sit on the stage or to share our expertise or find our place at that table because we think the table wasn't really made for us. Yeah, I'm here to tell you that it is. And if it's not, you can build a new table because your view is perspective. It's helpful. Results come from mastery of your own lane and not comparison to others. Let that sink in for a second. You can absolutely, look at everybody's Instagram and leave here and think, Cassie Walker Johnson has the best social media presence, right? I'm so envious. She sends out these beautiful newsletters. That's not my skill set. That's okay. That doesn't mean that there isn't a lane for me. I'm gonna master the things that I'm good at, right? Everybody has their lane. I'm gonna tell you a really quick story. This is a picture of my son. This was his very first Western Zones championship. He looks defeated because he is. He had just lost a race that he was supposed to win. He didn't medal. He was devastated. He just got into his head. He got into his brain. He came out and he was so discouraged. You can see it all over his face. He's tired. He's traveled. We were in Idaho. And the weather was really tough. It was smoky. It was hot. He was out of his element. It's the first time he'd ever competed on a really, really big stage. And he was there with hundreds of kids, one of 4 10-year-olds that made it to the Oregon team. And I was like, dude, I get it. Like, it's hard. Doing anything competitive is hard. Standing up here and talking to all of you today, hard. But we get to choose our hard. So I took this photo of him because I knew, I was like, this is a moment I want to remember, and I want to bring him back to it. He's standing there, he's processing, he's realizing he just lost, he's recuperating, and the next thing I know, he takes himself to the warm-up pool and he gets back to work. He's like, I don't get to win if I don't put in the work. I don't get to keep coming here and earning my spot if I don't put in the work. And this one race doesn't define the rest of my performance the rest of this week. Because every time we have a new race, we have an opportunity to wake up and do something different. We have an opportunity to not take that bad experience into the next one. We don't need to take that negative energy from that really horrible client that we've all had into the next one. I captured that and I was like, my son's got grit. I'm like, if I don't do anything else well, let it be that. Let it be that. So why do I tell you that? It's because fundamentals matter. Focus on what you can control. Your technique, your endurance, your pace, and your attitude. Don't get distracted by what's happening in other lanes. Your competitors' moves don't determine your race. Sure, they're probably looking at you because you're doing something cool and you're doing something unique, and then you kind of have imposter syndrome. Doesn't matter. Do it anyway. Run your own race. Master the fundamentals. In our business, that means relationships, contracts, negotiations. Master your time, master your schedule, master your mind. Go through and find the mastery that's going to invoke a change in your business that you want to see. You have absolutely learned from some of the best in the industry this last couple of days. There's no doubt about it. I told Shauna last night, I was like, tenfold, there has never been another option for me but WinderMERE. And this week absolutely proved it. You all are exceptional at what you do, and you should never apologize for it. And don't let the imposter syndrome get a hold of your mindset. Life is just too short. Resilience after a loss matters more than the loss itself. What did you learn from it? How can you improve? What can you do better? As I lovingly refer to it with my agents, I'm like, you have 9 seconds to feel what you need to feel, and then we're moving the hell on. Okay, you gotta have the rebound rate of a goldfish. Seriously, that's what I tell them, rebound rate of a goldfish. If you are allowing yourself to meddle in that space for too long, you're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss the moment. And sometimes the greatest things that have come in my life have been from a no. When I don't get hired from a seller, I'm like so devastated. And then I watch it sit and I'm like, they were probably gonna be a pain in the ass anyway. And they are, okay? So how you determine your loss, like that's the biggest thing. You gotta make sure you have resilience. And I think that is the biggest thing I want you to take from this. Like you are gonna lose. There are gonna be seasons where you get beat up and you're tired and things are hard. But you go back to your fundamentals, you go back to your basics and you say, I'm gonna put in the work. Awareness of the whole pool creates opportunity. So if you're in lane 4, or maybe 5 or 6, or maybe you're in 1, doesn't matter. Be aware of your competition, be aware of your pool, but most importantly, be aware of yourself. Know what you're putting in every single day. Be self-aware enough to say, I need a minute because I have best year burnout. We all know that's a real thing. And it's okay to not be a top producer. It's okay to say, I want to be a consistent producer. It's okay to say, I want to redesign my branding because I'm not feeling it, right? But I think what's important is that you've got to be aware of those things. You have to self-check in. And lastly, finish strong. Don't glide before the wall. For any of you swimmers out there, you'll appreciate this. Deborah, I see you nodding your head. There's a lot of people who in practice or in life, I guess, is a good example. They glide to the wall, right? They stop kicking, they lose energy, and they're like, I'm almost there. But like the end is what sets you apart from everybody else. So if you just glide yourself to the wall, if you think about the fact that Phelps lost by one blink, that extra little motivation that you had, that extra little push, that extra little kick that you put into the end, rather than gliding to the wall, could have set you apart from somebody else. because you do the work and you set it up. So, with that, I want to challenge you to be relentless and be resilient. And when life is really tough and really hard and really exhausting, because it will be, you are in the toughest business. You wake up every day unemployed. You have the privilege of putting humans in homes. I can't think of a better industry than that. I often think about what I would do differently if I had something. Maybe I'd be a lawyer. I like to argue with people. I'm an 8, if you know what an Enneagram is. But I love this business. I love this industry. I love the ability that I get to share my kids with you all. I love the ability that I get to tell you my story and my heart and my mind. And I get to say, I hope this helps you because you are resilient. And you are relentless. And there is nothing wrong with that. You wouldn't be in this room if you weren't. So with that, have the mindset of a goldfish. 7 seconds to rebound, 9 if you really need to cry about it, but no more than that. Because you all are phenomenal. We're humans over houses always. And what you do matters. And lane 4 is your opportunity to shine and pay attention to your fundamentals and bring it back home. With that, thank you all for having me.